inspiring others, leading with impact, inspiring others, recognizing contributions, group dynamics, basics of parliamentary procedure, and using your parliamentarian. And people presenting tonight are Governor Debbie McBee of District 12 and myself and Therese Eden. So Debbie?
All right, hold on just a second. Let me share my screen. Welcome, everyone. We're so thrilled to have you join us tonight. Let's see here. We get this all worked out. Let's go up to slideshow. Okay, if anyone has questions while this is going on, I'm not going to be able to see your hands or anything, so just jump in with any questions. Can you see the whole screen?
Yes.
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 Okay, I need to make this go smaller somewhere. All right. There we go. I think you already covered that part. So we are, hold on, I need to make this little window. There we go.
I have one question.
Yes.
Your closed captioning is coming out in Spanish.
Okay.
That's a setting on your Zoom screen. I think you can select the language on your screen.
And
No.
where do I go to do that?
Everyone else is in English,
Yes.
but whatever
Debbie,
Debbie
you've got
says
it
is
in
in
English.
Spanish.
It's just hers.
Yeah, so Linda, what you need to do is under more, you'll see captions. When you click on the more tab, it should bring up captions, and then you get the show captions, and then you can
I
select
hit
your language.
more, but I don't see.
Or maybe you already have show captions down there, and then you can click on that and get your
Remote
caption
control.
language.
There's always something.
Debbie,
Yeah.
change yours. It's coming through okay.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's captions, Debbie. I see hide captions. The little arrow gives you caption language.
You see something that I'm not seeing?
On the bottom of my screen, you've got hide captions or show captions.
I
You're
don't
not
see
seeing
that. Do
that?
you see that?
Okay.
It's on the other
That's what
side
I'm-
of the report.
Under more.
I've got more open.
At the
On
caption.
and off.
Debbie, hit reset to default.
You know what? Let me unshare my screen for a minute. Let's stop sharing. That way I should get my whole bar back because I think it was giving me just a partial bar. Okay, go away here. Okay, now, raise hand, participants, more captions. Here we go. Okay, captions, caption language. It says English.
It must be in your PowerPoint presentation then.
It's English for me.
English for
Okay.
me.
Coming across to English.
Well, then just ignore the captions if that's okay.
Okay, go for it.
Can we ignore captions and you can, I presume you can see when I get it going again here. Leadership workshop. Let's see if this will open now, share. Okay, so can everyone see the screen again?
Yes.
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 Okay, okay. So we'll just get going now. So we're going to start off with inspiration. And I think part of a leader is, part of the role of a leader is to inspire others. Whether you're a club president and you're trying to inspire your club members or your committee chairs, if you're a district governor, like I've gotten to serve in the past 2 years, and you're working with your district committee chairs and your overall membership, if you're on the international level, inspiration really plays a lot into the strength of a leader and the impact that you can make as a leader. So inspiration can refer to a source of new ideas, of being mentally stimulated to do something creative or important, or it can tie into motivating somebody through your actions or your words. And we put in here, according to psychologists Todd Thrash and Andrew Elliott, inspiration involves both being inspired by something and acting on that inspiration. So your goal when you're trying to inspire a group or an individual is to not just have them thinking something, but then to go and do what you want them to do. At this time, with the call to conference going out, hopefully that inspires people to register and attend the conference in May for us. It can have all kinds of different impacts on all different levels. So the word inspiration or inspire comes from Latin I don't even know how to say that. I never took Latin, inspirare, meaning to breathe or blow into. And the word inspiration originally meant to influence, move, or guide to speech or action through divine or superior. Okay, I've got stuff covering my screen here. Let me get rid of that little thing. Supernatural power, as in a profound idea or truth being revealed to an unsuspecting person. That was way back in time, but I think it's still interesting sometime to know the okay, why now is my screen not going to advance? Yep, there we go. Okay. Why does it matter as a leader? Research involving almost 50,000 leaders showed that the ability to inspire creates the highest level of engagement and commitment in an organization. A lot of things are written about inspiring in businesses, but the other thing that's important is in an organization like Altrusa, it's important to inspire our membership as well. So let's for a moment, before we go into more detail, and again, I can't see my screen with all your faces right now or any hands, but for a few of you, let's take a moment to share, because I think sometimes when we share, these are the most valuable things we can get out of a workshop. So if any of you want to jump in and share an example of a time that you belonged to a team or a committee and you felt really engaged and inspired, and if that was the case, what did the leader do that made you feel that way? Does anyone want to share an example of sometime you were inspired? I'll be able to. Anybody?
Well, this is Linda Ring. When Leanne Milligan was international president, she led from down under and did it with such energy. And her motto, reach out, really stuck with me, because reaching out to people, reaching out for problems, reaching out was the way to connect with everybody and to keep us going.
I would agree with you. I served under her in a different kind of a way, and she was a big ball of energy and very inspirational. Thanks for sharing that, Linda. Anyone else? And it doesn't have to tie into Altrusa, it can tie into a work setting or some other organization you belonged with.
I think one of the inspirations for me was the time I served working with the Wounded Warriors when I was in the Air Force. Just working with them every day and seeing what they overcame. It inspired me to be not such a whiner in my life, and to look for the strength in people and be optimistic, because that's all a lot of them have was their optimism, and that's what got them through. So I learned from that.
Tammy? Anyone else have anything that's been inspiring?
So I'm on board called Women Aware, and what we do is we have conferences once a year. We also have leadership luncheons once a year. And last year, our conference speaker was Elizabeth Smart. And to hear her story, to hear her actually tell her story and how she got through it, it gives you a whole different perspective to, what it means to be resilient and to overcome. So that was a very inspiring moment for me in meeting her and talking to her and getting to know her as a person, not just as the figure that you see in the public eye.
Very cool. Thanks, Greta.
Governor B, may
Yeah.
I?
Yep, Dina.
Dana from the Albany Club of District 12. I was inspired last weekend. I attended the Tim Tebow Night to Shine event with actually Julie on this call, Dina and Jody. I'd never done that. Um, it was a very big eye opener for me. And like I told my club last night during my nonprofit update, whatever thingy, there were like 200 plus special needs person in that room that night. And, people think we have it bad, but I mean, I was inspired to even serve more to my community and others and whatever. Yes, if any of you ever have the opportunity to do the Tim Tebow Night to Shine, the Saturday before Valentine's Day, it is worldwide. Trust me, do it.
Stina? All right. And I'm going to say that within Altrusa, I have two people who have been especially inspiring to me. One is Pat McClintock. She is, I think, 85 years old now. I don't think she'd object to my sharing her age because she says that herself with people. And she is such a big ball of energy. And she is not a person that as she's gotten older has stepped back. She is physically and mentally capable. She chairs things. She brings up new ideas. She brings in more new members than anyone I've ever known. And I thought, I want to be like her when I grow up. She's an amazing person. And the other person that had been very inspiring to me was Alarita Burns, who was an Altrusan for something like 67 years. And at 103, she didn't come in her last few months to our club meetings, but 102, she was still coming to our club meetings. She would still do shifts of things. And I thought, we have some amazing people within our organization bring their own personality and skill. And even though they may not know they inspire us, we're often inspired by people just because of who they are and what they do, which is great. I'm going to screen.
Me.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I'm calling from Michigan, so it's after 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
If you're not speaking on the Zoom call, can you please mute yourself?
Yeah, we have someone with a TV in the background.
And a dog. And a dog who is shaking.
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think, let's see if we need anyone else here. Okay, I think we're pretty good there. All right, thank you. So I'm going to screen share again. Thank you for the people there that shared a few things. Let me get this back going again. All right. So we'll go to the next screen here. So this is an interesting chart. We're not going to read the whole thing, but this is from Bain and Company, which is a consulting company. And they did a huge study. I think it involved, I don't know, 800 or more people. It might have been the 500 or more, but anyway, a lot of leaders to identify with their employees some of the things that really were inspirational. So there's 4 quadrants here. The top left is developing inner resources. So things like stress tolerance, emotional self-awareness, flexibility, self-regard, optimism are some areas of ways to inspire others. Top right is how you connect with others, your vitality, your humility, your empathy of others, listening to people, expressing your ideas and your emotions, finding commonality, being assertive in the right kind of way. The bottom left zone is setting the tone. So having a worldview, seeking to understand different perspectives, being open, curious, and creative, having a shared ambition within your organization, following through in the way that that you say you're going to in words and actions, being unselfish, recognizing people in our instance, within our clubs and organization, being responsible, things like that. And then in the bottom right quadrant, leading the team. So having a vision, what are you working toward? a focus. Is there harmony or is there conflict? And some conflict, of course, is good and it leads us to a better place, and some is not as good. Kind of acting on behalf of others, helping others to be engaged and achieve what they're trying to do. And then having group directions and clear expectations, and empowering your team. And all of these things come in terms of involving your group of people in what you're saying, what you're doing, how you're communicating things to help inspire them. We will record, or are recording this, and we will share the recording and the PowerPoint with people on the district website as well. And if you're not part of our district and you want this sent to you, shoot me an email and we can send that too. So how can you become a more inspirational leader? So the Bain study of over 10,000 people, there's our number I couldn't quite remember, showed that there's no combination of strengths that's statistically more powerful than any other to be inspirational. So an individual can increase his or her inspirational leadership ability by excelling in just a few intrinsic strengths. So think about what your natural talents are and cultivate them. You don't have to do all 40 things that were on that chart. Think, what are you good at, and utilize that to inspire the other people on your team. Select 4 or 5 characteristics that feel authentic to you, and then make those become the skills that, what Bain had said, becomes your rock pile, something that you can target for personal development and you can use on a daily basis to help other people and to inspire them. So inspiration, what creates inspiration? A shared vision, goals outside of our own needs and interests, a pathway to meet goals that seems achievable to people, an ability to bring ourselves into the action, and an unwavering belief in the team's ability to deliver the positive change. And that chart had lots of different things, but it comes back to, what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to get your team to achieve? So in creating great teams, you want to maximize the use of your members' skill. And I think that's really important in leadership is you don't do everything and you don't decide everything. A strong leader is delegating to their team, allowing them to do their thing in their way, so long as they make reach the goal that you're trying to achieve by the deadline. And so it's often hard for leaders to let go of things and to encourage and empower our team to go do it the way they need to do it, the way they want to do it. So long as the task gets done, you need to give people the freedom to do that. And they're going to be more engaged, they're going to be more actively involved, and they're going to feel like they're actually participating in the way they want to. So you want to consider using a talent review, find out what people want to contribute, but also don't assume anything. Find out what they'd enjoy working on or where they might want to grow a skill, because sometimes people do things over and over and they get tired of doing it and they want to try something new. And we just figure they keep wanting to do what they want to do, but they might want to divert to something else and build themselves out personally, which is part of, a big part of Altrusa. Skills you need to effectively lead teams. So you need clear communication. You need to provide the necessary resources. Show any budget items or any guidelines, any deadlines, whatever your expectations are and what they need to actually accomplish the task. As I just mentioned, you need to be able to delegate, hand over authority to whoever is going to be in charge of something and trust them to get it done. But also be there as a resource and check in to see how things are going. Develop other people. One of the biggest things you can do as a leader is help other people grow in their own leadership skills so that they can take over things. And it doesn't mean that they're going, using again Altrusa as an example. Some people may be perfectly happy being a committee chair and may never want to serve on your club board or on district or international. Others may be terrified to do anything, and doing a little bit at a time gets exposure for them to different levels of leadership, and they build and grow and become interested in taking on another level. And I know there are people on this call that that's applicable to. You need to be a skilled problem solver and help them. We always have problems and things come up that are expected and unexpected. And so we need to be able to think through potential solutions. This is an issue for some people sometimes, that we want everything to be perfect, and seeking perfection sometimes can crash the whole effort. We need to allow imperfection and things to not go exactly as planned, and to put the plan out there and run with it and be flexible, and also to be okay with failure if something doesn't work. We can learn from failure as much as we can learn from success. One of the big things of being a leader is being the source of optimism for your team, celebrating your successes, acknowledging people, providing constructive feedback in the right way, but being joyful and positive and energetic, kind of like Linda said about Leanne. That is a great a leader showing great skills with working with a team. And then managing team stress and burnout. It's important to, especially if you have a highly competent person on your committee or on your club board or on whatever team you're working with, to utilize them, but to remember to not always dump on them and count on them or give them too many things to accomplish. Because even within Altrusa, we have had members in my own club who've dropped out because they jumped in and they were doing so much, and then they were so competent that they got asked to do more, and in the end they quit because it was just too much. So as a leader, have an awareness of how much people are doing and how much time they're taking, and if it's reasonable for them or if they need to step back a bit. A successful leader is a convincing communicator, is an effective manager, and there's a difference between being a manager and a leader, and also is a skilled problem solver. And we've already talked about a number of these things, so I'm not going to go through that list anymore. Before we go on to recognizing contributions, does anyone have any things they want to add in about inspiring teams or working with teams in that way? Or any questions?
Debbie, I think for me, I find it inspiring when I see a leader on their journey of becoming a better leader and working on their skills. And it inspires me to keep my mind open that we are all on that journey and nobody's perfect. And so we give each other grace.
That's a great point, Tor. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So our next section is recognizing contributions.
So we're going to talk about the languages appreciation. Why do we show appreciation? And delivering appreciation and recognition in a way that works and that is meaningful to the receiver. So our the 5 languages of appreciation are words of appreciation, quality time, acts of service, tangible gifts, and physical touch. And then how do we implement them? Why appreciation? As leaders and fellow club members or colleagues, we want to show each other support and create a positive culture. Appreciation is part of a positive culture. Many of us are already good at showing appreciation. Most of us are okay at receiving appreciation, but appreciation is like communication. We need to appreciate each other in a way that works for the person who receives that appreciation. And finding, learning who your members are, what they're about, what speaks to them. The first is words. You praise somebody for their accomplishment or their achievement, and be specific in that praise, because it's more effective if we say, for example, our call to conference just came out. And rather than me saying to Debbie, gee, what a great call to conference, to be able to say, boy, you and Sophie did an amazing job, and you pulled in pictures from early days of Altrusa and how great it was and more impactful in celebrating our 70th anniversary. Be really specific about what you appreciate in those people, and appreciation for their character traits, whether it's perseverance or humility, patience, self-discipline, honesty, or compassion. And it's sometimes not easy to identify those things, but all of them are important for a good team culture and a good teamwork. praise for positive personality traits, being optimistic, being a planner, being somebody who's spontaneous, being somebody who's a doer. And your sincerity is really essential here. Read the clues. Do they perk up? Do they seem to grow taller? Do they get rosy cheeks? Do they smile? Even those who are mainly motivated people want a thank you and to be recognized for their efforts, especially in a group like ours where we are all volunteers. We are giving our extra time to an organization that we believe in. The next one is quality time, giving someone focused attention. It's not about the length of time, but it's the quality of time. And I was on a board where the first hour and a half of every meeting was dedicated to going around the room and talking about what you were grateful for, what you appreciated, what you were working on, or what you were struggling with. And it really helped us bond together as a team and get to know each other on a more personal level, but in a team setting. And so we were able to help each other and give suggestions. And it was more of a real acceptance at that point because you were really getting to know each other so much more. So do you make regular time to meet with your team and honor those times? Do you make time for casual talk when you meet? Do you have meaningful conversations showing interest, empathy, sharing thoughts, feelings? Do you listen well? Um, you may remember something that somebody said 6 months ago and bring them back to that and said, 6 months ago you said this and it really inspired me. And that really lets them know that you really care and that you're really listening. And that's impressive. The next one is acts of service. For those who are doers, they appreciate it if others pitch in and assist as needed. They look to leaders to know when they need assistance in a certain area and to remove obstacles if needed. Being of service is not always welcome. Some feel that help from others may be more disruptive than beneficial. Important that you complete what you start. This shows that you care. And be clear about your commitment. How much time do you have to give? When are you available? What role do you want to play? And be real specific with that. The next is tangible gifts. Tangible gifts show appreciation and are most effectively when they are something the recipient really values, whether it's tickets to a show, sporting event, or a magazine that you thought they might be interested in, favorite restaurants, favorite leisure time activities, being acknowledging that they need flexibility in their schedule because they might have a family, or a gift card for a manicure or a massage. And then there is the gift of personal touch. And this is not, this language is not always included in workspace or club training. It is language that's not always applied safely in a work or learning environment, and it needs a lot of trust. I will say that I was in a meeting and I came up after a gal had been recognized, and I came up alongside her and I gave her a side hug, and I could feel her whole body tighten up. And so I was like, okay, well, she's obviously not comfortable with that. But I found out later that she had severe arthritis in her back and her back was killing her that day. And then later she said to somebody, well, why does Tor hug you and he doesn't hug me? And so it came back to me and it was like, I am so sorry. I misread when I hugged you. And she said, oh yeah, I have terrible back pain. So, it's having a conversation and learning what people's preferences are. Some people are very touchy-feely, yeah, and you learn that right off the bat. They're not afraid of hugging, and that's great. And but be aware of it can also be unwelcoming and threatening. So if you have a staff member or club member who values touch explore what's acceptable and what's not? And how do you implement what you've learned about the languages of appreciation? Each of us have languages of appreciation that we favor, whether it's words, acts of service, quality time, tangible gifts, or physical touch. Each of us has a language that we least favor. We need to know what our least favorite language is so that we so it can be our blind spot. And if we don't care about tangible gifts, I might not appreciate the free tickets that somebody gave me. But I appreciate the fact that they showed me that appreciation. And if I don't care about words of appreciation, I might not verbalize my appreciation enough. And just, just saying to all of you, I appreciate all of you simply because you're Altruisans and we all work together, and it may be in a club, it may be in a district, and may be international. We are all donating our time for causes to change the world. And so it's, we need to appreciate each other.
Tor, let's stop for a minute, and then I'll stop screen
Okay.
sharing when I read this prompt. Let's just have a few people share what their appreciation language is, or something that they're not. Like if you're not comfortable with touch, or if you love getting, gift items versus the words of appreciation or whatever. So let's take a moment here. I'm going to stop screen sharing. And does anyone want to share one of those languages of appreciation that they do like or that they don't like?
Well, I know for me, because I read the 5 Love Languages book a few years ago, and I would highly recommend it. It's a very easy read, doesn't take very long, little quiz in the back, and it helps in all sorts of relationships. But for me, words of appreciation, that's all I need. I don't need gifts and things like that. But what is also interesting is, and I think it sort of ties into what Tor just said, but that oftentimes how you choose to receive is very different than how you choose to show. So how I choose to show and where I'm comfortable is acts of service. Obviously, I'm in a service club, I'm a nurse, acts of service is where I feel most comfortable. So when you discover other people's preferences through trial and error sometimes, or just by asking, sometimes that challenges us as leaders to step out of where we feel comfortable and show appreciation to others how they wish to be appreciated, not how we feel most comfortable appreciating other people.
Thanks,
As a
Therese.
footnote to what Therese just said, there's a version of that book called The 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace, and by the same authors. And we just had a book summary on that, and it's a great book in more depth about appreciation.
I'm Carol Rader from District 6. And many, many years ago, I started sending out cards on holidays. I send out 45 to 50. And one of those is to a gentleman who's in his 90s now. So in Indiana today, or yesterday, it was icy, not a good day to be out, very cold. And this 99-year-old gentleman had his nurse bring him over, and he had gone to a flower shop and bought me a rose and some little baby's breath. And if you don't think I didn't feel appreciated,
Aw,
How great.
sweet.
I tend to try to be one of those people who touch. And I know a lot of people don't like to be touched. They find it offensive. So unless I know somebody pretty well, I always say, can I give you a hug? Or do you need a hug today? Or something of that nature. And most people, unless they are ill or very arthritic, are welcoming to it. And I certainly am.
That's a really good point, Joe. And just asking for something like that when it is sensitive for some people. Anyone else have anything they want to share?
I think that sincerity is very important because I've been shown accolades and appreciation, and you can tell right off the bat whether it's sincere or somebody's just going through the motions. I mean, it's like they're reading from a script, and then others who jump up and down and get real excited, then you know it's sincere. You just really have to watch yourself on that.
If I may.
Yeah, Dina.
Dina, Albany Club, District 12. That's what Tor first said about the DS or the call to conference. I text Debbie. I turned right around and I text Sophie. It was very short and sweet. And I'm not bragging here. I'm a very affectionate, loving, caring, hugging person. And
I didn't know that about you, Dina.
I know. Sorry, Bubba. I'll give you a hug when I see you next. I tried my hardest to, and I am very sincere and heartfelt in what I do with my club. You know, we recognize birthdays, anniversaries. I recognize a volunteer of the month. I give them something. Last night at my membership meeting, I recognized our 40-year member who had been a member for 40 years. I got her a big old purple blanket that says altruist all over it. And this is no disrespect to the last 12 years I've had past presidents. Absolutely no disrespect to them. But I am who I am, and I've seen a difference in my club by thanking them, appreciating them, acknowledging them, and letting them do their thing and let them grow. I have a couple of members who have made comments, and they said it lovingly. You know, Dean, you are so appreciative all the time. That's how I was raised to be. And I'm telling you, it's not that hard to do. It's just like, you know, with our president or national president, the acts of kindness. It doesn't take that much. I mean, I sent Sophie a quick message the other day, and she's like, oh my gosh, Dean, thanks. You know, that's all it took. And she spent hours and hours. I can imagine doing the call to conference. So yeah, that's just me.
Yeah,
Can I
that
jump
makes
in?
a big difference.
Sorry.
Yeah, please go right ahead.
So I just want to add, because when Tora was saying about being intentional with how what you say you're appreciative of, because I always say thank you and I always say please, and they've looked at me like I'm just doing my job. So when you tell them what it was that made your day, or it's like, oh, that was awesome, and this is why, I think that's so much more impactful than just saying thank you. The thank you is very important and saying that, but giving the reason, it makes so much more. I've learned that over time. Like it really does make a difference because they're like, oh, okay, not just I'm doing my job, I would have done it anyway, but it was this that you did that made it important and made it good. And they know and they strive more because they know what was good. And oh, I can keep working that way. Awesome. You know, so thank you for all of this.
Thank you.
And being intentional that way, it's really respecting what the person's done on a whole nother level. It's not that broad thing. And a broad thank you is still a good thing. But when you can add on the specifics like you're talking about, people take it to heart a little more. And it is more meaningful when you can give that specific kind of thing. I will toss in that, you know, our district this past year did our longevity awards for the first time, and we got pins printed up that had the number of years 25, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of service. And the pins we intentionally got with each member's name on that was getting that award. And that was one of the I think most inspiring parts of our conference in May of last year, as recognizing these people. And what's interesting, and Julie would agree, and I know Kathleen's not on tonight, she would agree, but in going to our clubs for visitations, people may not be wearing their altruism membership pin as much as they are all wearing that recognition pin that has their number of years of service and their name on it. And you know, just showing those little things of appreciation. And it's only a pin, but it's calling out their, you know, how much they've given to this organization in a visible way for them, and it meant a lot. So all different kinds of ways to show appreciation. So thanks for sharing, everyone. That's awesome. I'm going to screen share again here.
Yeah. Mine is with the written word. I love receiving a card from someone. It tells me with sincerity that they've spent some time thinking about whatever it is they're going to talk about on their card. But I also in turn love sending cards to other people. It's genuine, it's sincere, it comes to someone at a certain time and a certain moment whenever they're open to read it. And it's being intimate with someone, even through the written word, and you can be very specific about what you're saying to them or inspiring or however it is you want to send that card, in addition to just saying thank you, because sometimes you're so grateful. Those two words just don't seem like they want to say enough. So I do it with a card and I love it.
And also, when you've taken time to write a card, the recipient knows that you actually took the time to write it, which means it's
Yeah.
not just the words on the paper, it's that you took the time to write it and mail it, which is another gift. So thanks, Julie.
If you just took all of those thank you cards or notes that you receive in a file, I had one, I called it my kudos file. And when I had a bad day, I opened up that file and it reminded me of how much people appreciate me and what I do.
That's a great thing to share. You're right. Thank you. Yeah. All right, we're going to move on to group dynamics, and I'm going to do the first couple slides, and then Tor is going to finish out that section. Tammy Atkinson was going to be doing this section, and she was going to be joining in late, so we're going to cover this for her. So group dynamics ties into learning about the characteristics of groups and how you can work well with them. What is a group? Two or more freely interacting people who share some kind of common identity and purpose. We can have informal groups and formal groups. So informal groups can be a collection of people seeking friendship, and formal groups can be people who've come together for a particular reason to contribute to the success of a larger organization, like our club members or committees or whatever. All different kinds of groups. You can have an informal group when you get together with friends and go grab a glass of wine and a meal together, or, at the highest level of any organization. Why is it important to work on creating great group dynamics? We've all been, I'm sure all of us have been part of groups where you're in synergy, people feel free to talk and share and work hard on things. And then also when you've been part of a group where maybe one person is the dominant one, or things get redirected all the time, or you run with an idea and it gets shut down. And so when you have good group dynamics going on, it helps your group to communicate better. It helps boost the morale of all of the participants and also their level of engagement. It helps create an environment that fosters more balanced decision making, because when everyone can contribute and you stop and listen and you don't shut down an opposing idea, you come out with a stronger decision in the end than just running with whatever one or two or a few people think is the right thing. You can collaborate more effectively, and you also get more high impact work done as a group together. Group dynamics grow out of the way people see themselves in relation to the group. So if you're managing a group that isn't moving forward, step back and take a look at what's really going on. Is there one person that's railroading other people? Are there some people that are never offering anything and not contributing, whether they're shy or whether they don't feel like their ideas are good enough? Are people not clear on what's expected of them, or they don't feel like they mean anything, or they're not a necessary part of the process? Are they needing more recognition and support or resources? All different kinds of things to think about on what will make a group, the group dynamic be better. And we wanted to talk for just a minute on group roles and norms. So roles are specific functions or assignments that help the group work together. And as an example, when we get together as a group, a committee, a board, a club as a whole, You typically will have a leader, you have some people that are creative thinkers, you have some people that kind of get into the coordinating mode, you have some people that may be the mediators and soothe people through difficult conversations. You have some people that are critics, and critics are not necessarily a bad thing. They're actually very good part of a conversation because they can bring up an opposing view. And if you do listen to all the different views, you can come out with a stronger endpoint. And you have people that are supporters and the positive people that keep things going. Roles are kind of the socially determined ways of behaving in certain positions and in certain groups. And there's a set of expectations about whatever role they have and what they're expected to do or not expected to do within that position. Norms are the standards of conduct, so things that are acceptable or unacceptable that lay out how the members of a group are supposed to behave within that group. That can include things like arriving on time for a meeting. In some cultures, that's not a norm at all, and in other cultures, it very much is. How you greet people, whether you're respectful of people, other people speaking, and you're quiet listening or you interrupt. Sometimes what the dress code is, those are all norms. They can be culturally derived. They can vary from country to country or culture to culture. They're usually unwritten and kind of passed on, but they do strongly influence people's behaviors and how you interact. And they sometimes go above and beyond the actual rules of an organization. They're those unspoken things that people know you should do. And then values are the beliefs and philosophies and principles that drive a group. And Altrusa has some very specific values and things that are identified as part of our organization to help guide us. Tor.
So there's group development stages, and stage one is orientation, and that's where uncertainty about most everything is pretty high. Stage two is conflict and change. And as you get into it, you get subgroups going and they struggle for control and roles are kind of undefined. And then you get into stage three, which is cohesion, and consensus on leadership structure and procedures is finally reached. Stage four is delusion and vision. Members misperceive that the group has reached their maturity. Stage five is disillusion. Subgroups form, disenchantment, diminished cohesiveness, and commitment to the group. And sometimes it's, your more seasoned members, and then the young ones come in and they've got new ideas, and there tends to be a struggle there. And stage six is acceptance. A trusted and influential group member steps forward and moves the group from conflict to cohesion so that it becomes very highly effective and efficient. Member expectations are realistic. Tips for groups is to be mindful of group stages, allow the stages to repeat when new members join. Beware of group practices that might exclude the voice of new members. Be welcoming and inclusive when new members join the group or the committee. And go back to basics when your group is struggling. Talk about group norms, talk about the group roles, and talk about the group dynamics.
I want to use my club as an example again. A year ago, we brought in 6 or 8 new members within a 2-month period, and they were all very enthusiastic. Some of them were younger, and they jumped right in and they joined, some different committees. And as different things were being planned, they offered their suggestions. And for a couple of them, their suggestions were pretty much ignored. For at least one of them, this is pretty unusual in our club, but it does happen sometimes because we're all human. Someone did the classic thing of, well, we don't do it that way. We do it this way and it's worked just fine. And it got to the point for a couple of those members that they went and talked to a few people because they were thinking of dropping out, because they didn't come to just pay their dues and go to meetings. They came to contribute. And when their voices were not heard, when things were like, oh, well, such and such always does that, but let's see, we'll find something else for you to do. We have to have a special awareness of our new members as we bring them in to make sure that they can express their opinions and their ideas. And for those of us who've been working on some project or whatever for our club for a long time and it's worked fine, there's nothing wrong with changing it up. At some point, everything we did had a first time. And whoever started it the first time made it up and made it work. And it can change and still be successful, equally successful, or perhaps more successful. So pay special attention when you're a leader of a group. And if you're, say, you're a club president and you're bringing in new members, remind your committee chairs to allow their voices to be heard and for them to find a way to be engaged in your club so that you retain them as new members. Otherwise, they think they're not important, they don't matter, and they leave. All right, Therese is our District 12 parliamentarian. She's done a phenomenal job. So she's going to take us through some of the basics of parliamentary procedure.
Okay, nobody fall asleep, especially those on the, other time zones. And we will get through the, yes, Linda's like, woohoo. So yes, I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about parliamentary procedure. And so I am the district parliamentarian, and we'll just jump right in to talk about some basic guiding principles. So when talking about, like I said, parliamentary procedure with anyone, most of the time people's eyes sort of glaze over and they zone out. It's not very exciting to talk about rules, but really when you boil it down to these three guiding principles, it helps us to understand why there is a 600-page long reference manual out there for you to reference. You won't have to after this, I hope. My goal for you tonight is that you can take away, some of the, maybe take out some of the mystique and intimidation factor and get down to some core content so that these principles are easy to understand and a valuable tool that helps you lead better and in particularly have more productive and efficient meetings. So just a bit of the historical background. When you think about, you can go to the next slide, Debbie. With the Robert's Rules of Order, you see this old guy in a military uniform. Again, super exciting. But what comes to my mind when I think of parliamentary procedure is simply one word: fairness. So the tools around parliamentary procedure help provide a structure in which everyone is equal, everyone has a chance to speak, and decisions can be made for the good of the whole. That's it. So next slide. We have 6 steps of emotion, and these will really help you as you work through structure in your clubs and committees. So we start at the bottom of the pyramid with a basic motion. And this is the first step and often comes out of a conversation already underway. Simply a person decides that they want to make a motion. The person that wants to make a motion needs to raise their hand, get the attention of the chair or president, whoever is running the meeting, and make their motion. It's usually like, I move that, or is the correct terminology, and then you state your motion. Once that occurs, the next step is actually, we need a second. And what I've often heard occurring in meetings or witnessed is that people go right into a discussion. And you don't want to do that unless the motion is coming from a committee. You don't need a second, or it's a board motion. But otherwise, a motion from the floor, you need a second. Once you
Therese,
have
can I interrupt you for just a sec? I want to make the point, and I think this is not known by as many people. If you second a motion, It doesn't mean you agree with it. It
Yes.
means that you want it open for discussion. So
Mhm.
you can second a motion that you completely disagree with, but it allows the group to then talk on the pros and cons of something. So keep that in mind when you're running a meeting, that a second does not mean that you agree with the original motion made, just that you want it discussed.
Perfect, yes. And then the chair is then going to state the question. So basically, the chair or president of the meeting is going to state that it has been moved and seconded, and then restate the question. And at that time, it opens up for debate. Typically, the person that has made the motion is given the privilege to speak to it first, and then conversation can continue from that around debating the motion. And I'll talk a little bit more about debating the motion on a subsequent slide. Once the debate looks like it's dwindled down and concluded, then the chair will again restate the motion and you'll have your vote. The chair needs to ask for affirmative first and then negative. And then once the vote is completed, the chair needs to state the result of the vote. Anybody have any other questions or comments about those steps? Usually a raise of hands is sufficient. There are other methods by which you can conduct a private vote. I'm not thinking of the right word, silent vote, ballot, those sorts of things. Okay. Then a little more information about the debates. So oftentimes if you're in a meeting, the debate section is where things can kind of go off the rails. And so I'll put in a plug for parliamentary in here. If you don't have one, get one. This is a great spot where a parliamentarian can come in really handy. So each member actually has the right to speak twice on the same question. However, all members who want to speak must be allowed to speak first before somebody else is allowed to speak a second time. And per our bylaws, debate is limited to 2 minutes per person. So even at that, it can get kind of lengthy. So keep that in mind as you're having those conversations. There are options if you want to, if there are like clearly 2 opposing opinions, you can have it alternate between the 2 opinions. And the chair, again, cannot just close the debate on their own just because, you know, they don't want to have the debate anymore. There are certain motions to close the debate. And that if someone does make a motion to close the debate, that does require a 2/3 vote. That's basically the call to question. So understanding a motion to amend. And I just have to say this to you, Debbie, this came up in my board meeting today and it was so fun. I am just one of those, yes. And it like hardly ever comes up, but
Right.
it was so fun. And I know I'm sorry, I'm really weird that I think this is fun, but I found it fun that we had a motion and then another motion, and then we're like, wait a sec, you know, we need to vote on this motion. Well, I don't want that. And it got a little crazy. So this is again where these sorts of things can happen. So in our particular case, we had a motion to discontinue participation in something, and then a second motion to instead do something else. So someone made a point of order that we shouldn't have a motion that is negative in tone, which I hadn't really heard that before. And I don't know, I've been parliamentarian for a while and no one had ever brought that up before, but it should be a positive tone. So we had our main motion, and then I said, well, okay, we have a choice. We can't really withdraw that motion because it came from a committee. So we can't withdraw it. So we ended up voting that motion down, talking about the second motion, amending that motion to state, instead of doing the first projects. So we added the new project and amended that motion to include in deleting the other project we were working on. So that's a kind of an example of how you can amend a motion. And it's just important to note the order. You have the main motion, you debate it, and someone makes an amendment. You must vote on the amendment first. And then you can go back to the main motion and vote it in as amended. Any questions about that piece? It can get a little hairy, and like at one point I had to say, oh, okay, wait, everybody stop talking. Because of the snow, we were doing it on Zoom, so that made it even more fun. But I had to say, okay, everybody needs to stop talking. We can only have one person talk at a time, and we need to do this in the correct order. So that is that piece on amending a motion.
Good for you, Trace. And I would suggest that people somewhere along the way, I find parliamentary procedure pretty interesting. I didn't used to be into it, but when you get into certain leadership roles, whether you're a club president or certainly as district governor, it's extremely valuable to know the basics. You don't have to read all 600 pages of Robert's Rules of Order amended, although some people find that fascinating, but there are some things that are really good skill sets to develop. And a lot of stuff you will almost never come across, at least in our organization. But this is one of the things that once in a while comes up, and it is good to have an understanding of how to navigate a motion that has been amended within your club. And so this is the essence of it. But if you want more information, Therese can provide it, and just a good thing to have an awareness of.
Yeah. And that ties right into the chair's role in voting. So just because you're a chair or a president does not mean that you are not a voting member. So I think that's really important to note. It did come up for a question for me as a parliamentarian, because we do have, I think, at least one club that has co-chairs. So we had to sort of navigate, well, there was a circumstance in which the chair did need to vote to break the tie. And so I think where we ended up with that was that the person presiding would be the tiebreaker, and the one that wasn't presiding that day would be a voting member, functioning as a voting member that day. So anyway, those interesting things sort of do come up as we're talking about procedures. And I think for myself, and I don't know about a lot of you, but my difficulty when I'm presiding over a meeting is keeping my mouth shut. I find myself biting my tongue because I am not there to influence, right? I am there to sort of get things going, to make sure we're following along with our agenda and proceeding appropriately. And whether you feel that you are influential or not, that doesn't really matter, because just by your positional power at the head table or behind a podium with a gavel or however you have it organized, people perceive you in a position of power. So do your best, unless it's a nugget of information nobody else happens to have that you need to share. You want to keep that mouth shut, and only vote in case of a tie.
I want to share in Pendleton a few years ago, we had a somewhat contentious topic come up, and I was not able to speak because if you're running a meeting or if you're the parliamentarian, you are supposed to be impartial and quiet and making sure the process happens and your members all have an opportunity to speak. And you can, by the way, if you're a chair and you really feel like you need to say something, you can hand over the chairship, or whatever it's really called, to the next person in power. You don't resume being chair at the end of that discussion. However, you've given it up because you felt it was that important important to speak. So in general, you do need to stay impartial and you do need to stay quiet and focused on the process. But I will say that in this one discussion in our club, it was killing me to not say anything because I really wanted to share my opinion, but I was not in a role where I should do that. And, you know, we have a large club and everyone voted and it went the way it voted. But sometimes as a leader, it's hard to be quiet and to lead the process, which is what we are sometimes called to do.
Exactly. Good example. So knowing your motions. So we talked a bit about the main motion already. That's a motion that you're going to introduce a question to the group. And you can do this while no other business is pending. So that's pretty simple. And we did discuss that. A privilege motion is a type of motion that really helps you get through the meeting. So an example might be you want to interrupt business because you have a speaker that just showed up and you want that person to have their time to talk and then leave the meeting. A motion to adjourn might be another privilege motion. And they are not debatable, but they do need a second. Then a subsidiary motion that really helps move the main motion, you know, the motion forward. So say you are, to Debbie's example, really in a heated debate and something comes on a motion that's already before the table and you need more information. You can postpone the motion until a defined date and time to give somebody an opportunity to get whatever needed information to move the motion forward. That's one example of a subsidiary motion. You can also do a subsidiary motion to limit the time of debate. You have a very long debate going on. You have 30 members in your club that each could have 4 minutes to talk. That's a lot of debate. So someone can raise a motion to limit the debate to a specified time. That motion requires a second, is debatable as well, and does require a vote. So those are a couple of examples of subsidiary motions. An incidental motion is more of a type of motion that deals with questions of procedure. So it might be a point of order, meaning, you know, I have a point of order on the way in which we are handling this particular motion. You can also do like an incidental motion to adopt a task force to deal with a specific problem that is being brought up before the group. You can request to withdraw a motion. That would be another incidental motion. So say in my example, for example, if that had not come from a committee and someone there at the meeting at the time had made that motion, then you could do a motion to withdraw the motion. And we would have had to do the other stuff that we did. So those again are some examples. And bring back motions, frankly, I wasn't really familiar with this. These aren't my slides, so I hadn't really heard it put in this term before. But these are
that's essentially if you somewhere along the way you table something, then you bring it back at a later date. If you table something until whatever happens, then a bring back motion is literally what it says. You're going to put it back on your agenda for discussion, debate, and voting because the extra information has been collected or it's ready to be discussed again. So it's kind of taking it off the table and bringing it back for debate.
Okay, yeah, I think that I kind of lump those under incidental motions, those type of bring back motions. But yeah, you can definitely do that and bring something back for debate at a later defined date and time. And then ranking, this is a pretty simple slide, basically showing the ranking of making the motion. So you want to follow this particular ladder up. And then the how you vote on them, you follow it right back down again. So that's just a visual representation of some of the concepts we've been discussing tonight.
And you don't, you know, to run a decent meeting, you don't have to have all of this under your cap. If you're into it and you want to master it more, we provide this just to give you this image, just to give you an idea of there is an order of precedence for motions, and you can learn more about it, but we're not going to go into more detail of it tonight.
Right. And then ending the meeting, a motion to adjourn is usually a privileged motion, requires a second majority. I know that our club meetings are more informal than, like, say, a district conference or it's international meetings, some of the more formal meetings. So often, if you're at the end of your agenda or you're out of time and there's no further conversation happening, everything seems to be wrapping up, the chair can declare that the meeting is adjourned without a vote. And then we can talk a bit about the parliamentarian rules. So for those of you that have one, yay. If you don't, I would really strongly encourage you to get one. It's you know, a chairperson, a president's best friend at a meeting. They are appointed by the president. As Debbie mentioned, they are advisory. They are, again, more in a role to be quiet and a little less participatory unless it is called upon for their role as a parliamentarian. They interpret Robert's rules, advise the chair, can offer words of advice to help with resolutions, and again, they have a duty to be impartial. Any questions from anyone? All righty.
Thanks, Therese.
Yeah.
Tor, do you want to
So-
do these last couple ones?
Sure. So where can you get more help? You can go to your district website or the international website, your district and club bylaws and policies, publications from the international office, your leadership team members. You can call, email your immediate past president or other past presidents. A phone call, email to the a district board member, or the club president's handbook on altrusa.org. I know that I was on the international committee a couple of years ago, and it was interesting to be able to talk and get advice from other clubs in other districts. And it was a good source just to get some other input. So, you know, reach out to other people as well. So next month, does anybody have any questions? So I hear none. So our next leadership workshop is session 3, which is March 13th from 7 to 8:30 again, Pacific Standard Time. And it's on personal growth through leadership. And we want to thank all of you for coming tonight, especially that you in different time zones and staying up late. And anybody have any final things that they would like to say?
I do want to toss in that for any of our District 12 members, anyone that is on the call tonight will automatically be entered in the raffle drawing for our $100 Amazon gift card. That'll be on Saturday, March 1st. Anyone who is in one of our District 12 clubs who listens to the recording prior to March 1st and fills out the 6, I think it is, questions on our district homepage. There's a link there to click on, and that got uploaded last night. You can have any of your members do that, and then they'll be eligible as well. Anyone that attends all 3 of our sessions is eligible for a drawing. 3 member names who've listened to all or been on the Zoom call for all 3 of our leadership meetings will be eligible to have their name drawn for a 50% discount to our district conference. Does anyone have any other questions or things you want to share? Any information we didn't cover tonight? Hopefully this gave you some more ideas of how to lead with impact and cover some of those topics that are important ones that we don't always think about, but help us be better leaders.
Debbie, do you want to mention the club budgeting Zoom that's coming up on the 19th?
Thank you. Yes, we have next, I'm pretty sure it's next Wednesday. I don't have a calendar in front of me. But we are doing a workshop that Rita Strandholm and Megan Lauer and a couple others will be facilitating, talking about how clubs go through their budgeting process, working with their foundation. If they happen to have a club foundation, it's that budget time. All of our clubs need to have their budgets approved by their clubs. No later than in May. You do need to go into June 1st with a budget approved by your club. If not, you cannot expend any money until you do get your club taken care of. So we've had a number of clubs asking questions about that process and trying to refine it and confirm deadlines. So we'll be talking about that process next Wednesday. That information is also on the homepage of our website and on the flyer with all of our different workshops that we're doing in now February and March still, and a few in April still. So thank you all for joining us tonight. If anyone has anything else they want to ask about or share, we'll stay on for a little bit longer. Otherwise, we really appreciate you being part of this. And for our Central Coast and East Coasters who joined us, welcome. And thanks for being up so late. We hope it was helpful. And for all of District 12, you guys are awesome. And thanks for participating.
Thank you.
Great
all.
job. Thank you very much.
It was clear and good information. So
Good.
Thank
Glad
you.
to hear it.
And you said just email you and you'll
Yes.
send us, because I'm not in District 12. So
Yes, you can shoot me an email. It's on my district, our district website, or
okay.
mmcbed@aol.com, and I would be happy to share the PowerPoint. And I can also, for some of the out of district people, I've been adding you kind of as a guest to our website, so you can go into our recordings. So if you are interested in that, I can do that too. Yeah,
Yes,
you want
please.
that too, Linda?
You betcha.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be helpful.
Okay, I can do that. Let's see. All right, we'll do that, and then you can go in. We have a thing called learning resources, and on a drop down, recorded workshops, and then on a drop down for this particular one, it would be the leadership ones. But we have all different ones we've recorded, so you can go in and access any of them.
That's
Beautiful.
wonderful.
After I add
Thank
you.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank
And you said your email is mbd at
mmcbed@aol.com. I have to be the only person left using AOL. I'll get to Gmail one of these days.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for joining us.
Happy Valentine's Day tomorrow, everyone. Make sure you love yourself.
Yes.
You.
Everyone.
Night.
Drive safely home, Debbie and Debbie.
Yeah, she's over here too. Yeah. Tor and Treese, thanks very much for covering great information tonight. You did an awesome job.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Yeah.
That's
Very much
good.
so.
Debbie, I have a question.
Yes.
The slides that you've been showing in these leadership recordings,
Yes.
so I can access those via the website.
You will be able to as soon as I upload it. I will not be uploading it tonight or tomorrow because we're up in Coeur d'Alene. I've got to drive home. So I will try and get it uploaded on Saturday. As soon as I get it uploaded, you can go into learning resources and the recording is there. And I can also put the PowerPoint as its own attachment if you just want to look at the slides.
I would appreciate, for me, I do better with paper in hand.
Yeah.
So that was actually my question. So this is what, the third leadership Zoom call that I've done since January with y'all. And me personally, I was just wishing there was a way to get the paper handout of the slides.
Sure.
And so if there is a way, I would like that. If there isn't, I understand, and I'll just.
No, there absolutely is. I can shoot you an email, Kim, with the PowerPoint attached, but I can put the PowerPoint up onto the district website as well.
Thank you so much, Debbie.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey, Kim.
Thanks for joining us, Kim.
Yes, Miss Dina.
Just what I do I sit here with my phone and I take a picture of every screen.
I do too.
Dina, we can simplify that and we can just email you the PowerPoint, my friend.
Yes.
Well, I was doing that with the picture and then I was taking notes
I
because
do
I
both
heard some
too.
things I
Yep.
liked and I missed a slide.
Yep,
We'll
I-
remember that for the March one and just tell people that we can email them the PowerPoint. That way you don't have to worry about it.
It's okay.
All right. Thank you,
All right.
Debbie.
Yeah, you bet. Night.
Good night.
Hi, Nancy. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Teresa, I wanted to thank you. Before this meeting tonight, I was helping a good friend of mine through some questions she had of her HOA and some of their bylaw changes. And it was like, oh, I get to do Robert's Rules of Order with these folks. You know, this is so cool. And I'm like, oh, now what would Teresa say? It was kept going off in my head. It was great. Perfect.
WWT, right? What would Treese do?
Ayad, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name the right way. I did see your message there about including men on the international website. And for some reason, with my screen sharing going, I'm not able to type a response. But I will pass that message on to international. There are not as many clubs with men, but we absolutely, every district does have men. And so Krista Vlieger takes over as international president in July. So I'll let her know because usually an incoming president changes out a lot of the slides. So I'll make sure that she knows about the request to include more photos of men. I know that there are at least 2 on there, but you know, there's a lot more photos. And it depends on what clubs take and what they share and what international can pick up on Facebook and whatnot. But I did want to address your comment that was in the chat since I couldn't respond in the written way with the chat. So I'll pass that on to Chris.
Thank you all. Have a great
All
day
right.
tomorrow.
Night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Share the love.
Everyone. Bye-bye.
Kindness.